A young sister recently confessed, quote,
I don't even know who I am. I found out that I was only a mere reflection of who everyone else told me I should be. And inside, I was so confused, desperately seeking to know my true identity beyond just being a reflection of a social profile.
Her email was private, but her statement was a public sharing, expressing the general sentiment that represents a larger population. Her name would not be recognized by most, so we would simply call her Sister Y, but her thoughts and feelings are definitely shared by many. We recently received another email by someone who considers himself to be a public figure. He appears to be known within a growing population of conscious, progressive, youthful spirits. The email in question by one who we refer to as Brother X to avoid name recognition. Consciously or unconsciously, his message transmitted a soul-stirring encode that is being activated within the DNA of man, he, and she as we speak. This encode is causing many individuals to focus on the need for change, be it lifestyle change, change of location, or even a name change. Brother X and Sister Y expressed a keen interest regarding the Kwatamani Divine Socioeconomic Family Community Order, and we have received a continuous and growing number of such messages from others over the past months. However, Brother X expressed displeasure that his email contained private statements that were shared publicly. In making the decision to share his statement, the I reasoned that the email in question actually represented and spoke well to express the collective consciousness shared by many individuals who contact us during these times. Experience has shown us that many are responding to a deeply encoded ancestral spirit yearning to reemerge into divine order without full comprehension of what it will take to answer that inner calling. Such inner callings and impulses are intensifying based on natural and innate biorhythms that work to keep us in sync, in tune, and in harmony with universal orders. However, depending on one's personal circumstances, one may misinterpret these impulses based on one's social, economic, political, or religious conditioning, or any other kind of influences that have been used to keep one locked down in an individualistic frame of reference. When the I state 17 down and 1 to go, the I am referencing time-keeping measures that have been charted, recorded, and preserved by sacred ancestral priesthoods of old. The Earth-solar movements are measured in months, years, millennia, astrological ages, advancing into Banu cycles, great years, and beyond. And just as we're able to identify day and night, the seasonal changes and the coming of ice ages, global warmings, and so forth, that I forward the sacred ancestral knowledge, wisdom, and comprehension to decode the coming of this new cycle. We're living within a prophetic time of earth-shifting changes, and this massive shift into a new Banu cycle opens the pathway of a great return, the return of holistic living consciousness, a consciousness fueled within the divine laws of universal order. That's right, we're talking about the sacred order of the Ankh, divine consumption, fruits of the tree, raw and living energy, divine union, masculine and feminine energy, he and she, and the forward multiplication of divinity into every offspring and vibration of the generation next within the holistic living context of divine socioeconomic family community order. There is a vast earth solar cycle that is at work beyond the plots and schemes of any one individual or group of individuals. And regardless of the egotistic claims and declarations of personal glory, we're in the midst of a long-awaited global happening. Although we are witnessing the toxic fallout of massive disorder sickness, disease, lust, lies, illusion, confusion, death, and deadly destruction. Yes, although we are witnessing sexual violation, violence, war, and crime, bitter, scornful hate, and the other cold, pale, toxic expressions of a depleting nature of energy in a downward spiral. A downward spiral that is running its course, and there are many who have enough spirit conscious sense to seek an exit from the toxic parallel. Unfortunately, blind-sided vision and a lack of connection to the divine laws of universal order have left many without a clear sense of direction. In other words, many are unclear about which way to go. As a consequence, the spiritually blind are leading spiritual seekers further away from a holistic living way of life into an even lower and lesser dimension of domination control, where the last vestige of life energy is set to be sucked, sapped, and drained out of the young and the innocent as they become disillusioned and hopeless. However, we are also in a time of divine intervention, otherwise known as the earth-shifting cycle of time, and a sacred few will continue to seek and will therefore find and align within divine order. We're not talking about massive numbers, but rather about a sacred few. Enough time has passed during this time cycle to identify, recognize, expose, and define the nature of self. The bitter, angry, reactionary, cocky, arrogant, disrespectful, indisciplined, deceptive, abusive patterns that continue to breed conflict, confusion, and chaos globally are the nature of the deified self. Haters and naysayers, agents of the deified self, and false prophets declaring the nature of self-deification as the height of spiritual enlightenment. For this reason, the most supreme unseen Naga priesthood is forwarding frequencies, signals, and encodes transmitted from far beyond the individualistic nature of self-deification to expose the deceptive patterns, profiles, and personas of the deified self. This is a divine intervention so that anyone who truly desires to exit the toxic parallel will have the opportunity to detox, purge, and heal from the enslavement syndrome of ego-driven individualism and free the inner essence of his or her being to raise up, resurrect into the higher peace consciousness of the divine children of the sun and the sacred garden culture from which we come. On that note, another feminine she, whose expressions reached our ears, stated proudly that she is a god, and so is everyone else. They just don't know it yet. Be clear here that the nature of energy one consumes does determine what nature of god or goddess that one may be connecting with. The nature of self asserting his will is the individualistic, egotistic nature of Set, Sutik, Satan, god of chaos, breeding conflict and confusion in opposition to divine social, economic, family, community order. Look around and see what you see, and then reason with the fact that the nature of divine social, economic, family, community order exposes the toxic nature of the individualistic self simply by showing the holistic living reality of he and she in alignment with the universal laws of divine order. That I and I have spoken as a supreme soothsayer, soul seer, and spiritual healer for over half a century, forwarding a holistic living way of life into the third generation, a nature of eldership unknown to the individualistic self. Within our terms, supreme refers to alignment, within the universal laws of divine order, 100%, 24/7, 365, as a holistic living way of life. No one can grant or deny one entry. One's own nature of energy will determine one's pathway. This is not elite. This is ancient wisdom. Nor is this extremism or occultism. It simply exists beyond the level and degrees of halfway, half-hearted, half-stepping that keeps many individuals enslaved to the dominating and controlling demands of an egotistic, individualistic identity, a self, a persona, a profile, a name, a facade of a lower and lesser God. When will one begin to connect to the inner essence of one's being as one's sacred ancestral soul continues to yearn for an exit from the toxic parallel? That is the question. The answer rings loud and clear within the nature of divine order. The fact is, a holistic living connection, the pathway to spiritual healing, can only occur when one has enough humility, divine humility, to humble oneself to a holistic living guidance, divine guidance. You see, it is only through divine guidance that one will be able to detox, purge, and heal from the toxic nature of the ego-driven self in order to restore the wholeness of one's being. Please hear this. Divine social, economic, family, community order. There is no other context, no other way to circumvent or transform, transcend, or otherwise escape the cold and pale toxic nature of self. That's right, divine humility. Then and only then will one be able to connect with the most supreme seen and unseen essence of masculine and feminine energy as man, he, and she. Go ahead, beat the bushes, move to the farthest corners of the earth, trying to find an easier route to avoid facing the absolute necessity for divine humility. Divine humility, the missing element that the deified self cannot fake, front, pretend, or manipulate. The holistic living reality is that without divine humility, there can be no detoxing, purging, or healing from the deified self. That is the lock, and the sacred order of the Ankh is the key.
Son, children, this is a very important message sent forward to you. Please listen again and review so that the encodes can get through. To be continued in Part 2. Part 2. Common Sense, Use It or Lose It by High Priest Kwatamani.